I'm joined by Darshan, top laner for CLG, following a very exciting series against Dignitas, where you guys took the series 2-1, and your 2 wins were very dominating wins. What do you guys think that you did well in those 2 games, and why did things go wrong in the second game? Because it seemed like you guys really had a command of the series in the other 2 games.
I think in the second game we just had poor planning in draft and in terms of what we wanted to do early game. And Dignitas had a pretty good plan for how they wanted to snowball the game, and we did nothing to counter that, so they kind of just got Tristana super fed, and we couldn't really deal with it. And then I think games 1 and 3 we had a pretty good idea of how we wanted to win and play the game, so it was pretty easy for us to execute and play as a team.
You guys now have Omar God in the jungle as the starter. What's it been like integrating him into the team full time?
He's really easy to work with because I haven't really played with a rookie or someone in a while who's really motivated and positive all the time. So I think that's one of his biggest perks is that even though he has so much to learn, and obviously he's not an amazing player right now, he's definitely just improving every week and every day, and that's what I really like to see, because I think that's what makes the biggest difference in a pro player and someone who's going to be successful is I can see that he's going to be successful because of how he practices and his mindset, and I think that's the most important thing for becoming a champion. So I have no doubt in my mind that he'll be a really strong player as playoffs approach, and he'll only keep getting better day by day.
Speaking towards playoffs, regardless of the spot that you guys finish in, you guys are locked in for playoffs 100%. Is there any specific opponent that you're looking forward to facing, whether it be a different top laner in the NALCS or a team overall?
I think the team that I want to beat most is TSM, because I think at CLG, our long history and all the times we play TSM, we always lose to them, and all of our fans, everyone always says, TSM always beats CLG. It was a rivalry before, but it doesn't really seem like much of that now. And I feel like they're the strongest team matchup-wise against us. So I feel like if we can beat them and have dominating wins against them, then we have nothing to fear. And I kind of want to play with that mindset that I don't really care who our opponent is. I want to play against the best, because that's how we're going to win NALCS, is by showing that we're better than all the other competition. And if we have to play TSM first, then I'd rather have that.
In recent news, CLG was bought by the Madison Square Garden company. Has that changed anything for you guys in terms of your team infrastructure, stuff around the house? Have you guys noticed anything changing on the organizational level, or have things just been pretty much the same since that happened?
I think so far things have been pretty much the same. I don't think anything's going to change drastically immediately, but I think as time goes on, we'll see more of those changes. But honestly, I'm not really sure exactly what's going to change yet. Everything just seems pretty normal for now.
Over the last calendar year, especially last split, the community directed a lot of CLG struggling towards you as a player, and you've had a fantastic summer so far. Do you think that was justified and that you needed to fix things for yourself as a player individually, or do you think that it was more of a team-based, hey, we're playing better as a team now, so it looks better on me as well, and it was that people just don't really understand how the inner workings of a team works in League of Legends in terms of how reliant it is on all 5 players being on the same page?
I would say individual skill-wise, I don't think I got that much better, but I think my mindset definitely improves and is constantly improving. And I obviously skill is always going to get a little bit better, but I think my play was pretty similar. Last split, it was just as a team, I feel like we weren't very cohesive, and so I definitely didn't look great. And I think it's a lot harder to look good on a losing team. And I think I just understand the game even better now than I did before, and I definitely owe a little bit of that for the early game wise to Dardoch, but I just think CLG infrastructure in general, everyone is so willing to help me improve because I'm really open to criticism. So if I have a flaw, if something's wrong with me, people have no problem pointing it out, so I'm always going to keep improving and getting better. And so I feel like that's also just what's helped me consistently get better over time, where you just see a lot of other LCS players kind of plateau or not really put in the effort. I'm always trying my hardest every week and every day and every second to be the best that I can be. And I have that kind of goal, that Northern Star that always guides me towards, I should do this action because it'll help me become a better player, it'll help me become more focused, and it'll allow me to play better on stage. So everything I do is towards that goal of becoming the best player, so I know that no matter what happens, I'll continue to get better.
As a veteran player who's had a ton of success throughout his career, what's the best advice that you could give someone who'd be trying to go pro in League of Legends?
I think I'm always an optimist and someone who would say if you have a dream or if you have something you want to accomplish, you should definitely go for it. But at the same time, the realist in me also says you have to be like real with where you are in life, where you're kind of like, are you going to school? Are you in a job? Like, what are you going through right now? How much time can you dedicate to becoming a pro? How much time can you dedicate to wanting to be the best? Because for me, when I became a pro, it was easier because, I was just playing a game after high school, after my classes were done, and I had like hours and hours and hours to dedicate. So you kind of have to be very, very like self-analytical and able to be aware of like where your situation is and kind of put as much time as you can into it, and then kind of see like, are you improving at a rate that will allow you to reach pro, or are you not improving fast enough? And if you're able to constantly like self-analyze and kind of make goals that are realistic, then you can kind of achieve that dream of becoming a pro, because you can kind of see like, oh, I'm improving this much, I'm learning this. But if you're not really like self-reflecting or analyzing like the goal you created and how the steps you're taking to reach it, you're never going to become a pro. So bottom line is, dream big, but kind of create the steps so that you can actually achieve your dream instead of just having a big dream. And like, I'll always be that kind of person who says, I can become the best player, and I believe that because of how I act and what I do every day towards those steps. I may not look like that right now, but one thing I can tell you for certain is I'm only going to get better and better and better until I reach that goal.
Do you think that when you became a pro and things, obviously the eSports scene wasn't as well developed in North America, infrastructure definitely isn't what it is now, and also like overall player skill, right? Like in season 2, Insec was a god, and obviously still a good player throughout his career, but now like every Lee Sin and Diamond should be able to Insec, right?
Yeah.
We've seen like a skill creep. Do you think it's easier to become a player now, or easier back in season 2, 2012, 2013 times? Do you think it's easier now or harder?
Hitting me with a tough question. That's a good one. I would say it's easier in different ways and harder in different ways. Okay. So it's easier in the sense that I think there's just so much more information. Like, you can see like the pros, like all the information is so readily available. Everybody knows, like, for example, Insec, like that was something that people didn't even know about for a long time after Lisa came out. All the like heavy, like high level mechanics, and you also just have, practice tool, so many resources to kind of like hone in and focus on like, okay, do I need to work on wave control? Do I need to work on champion mastery? Like, do I need to work on watching the mini map? Like, there's so many basics that have been outlined and understood now, so that I think it's a lot easier in that sense to kind of train those up and understand if you're analytical enough to realize, oh, I need to work on this. But I think it's harder in the sense that because of that, the skill level is also much higher than it was. Like, I was like, if you go back and look at some of my highlights from season 2, season 3, like I wasn't even orb walking correctly. Like I was like stuttering between autos. Like it was just bad. Like probably like a platinum player, like even like a gold player would probably like move better than me. If you look at some of those pro players, yeah. So I definitely think like the skill level is much higher, but I also think there's more resources to kind of get to that level. So it's kind of like the two different sides to it.
You're one of the few players that I've seen, no matter what, you're like, yes, I know I can do this. I know that you spoke to your optimism before, and regardless of the challenge, you see that the same answer, like, yeah, we can totally win. Mm-hmm. And so what I'm going to ask you then is how, realistically, since I've also said that it's important to set realistic goals for yourself along the way, what is North America going to have to do to catch up with Korea? Because we're starting to get there with infrastructure and coaching and like in terms of the overall standard, but what's it really going to take for that gap to close?
Yeah, so it's kind of become like a meme at the point, like the gap is closing, but I honestly believe that it is. And I like, watching Korean teams play and like watching the VODs, like I'm able to like, analyze like why they make decisions and what they're doing, and like I compare it to like NA LCS, and I honestly don't think we're too far apart. I definitely think that their infrastructure is still better, and they do have really strong mechanical players, and they have like better solo queue practice, but I feel like NA is definitely like getting closer and closer every year, and I wouldn't be surprised if this is a year where NA does even better, like more teams make it out of groups, and we're able to compete against the Koreans. I think it just, for me right now, like I'm not too focused on the Korean teams, I'm just focused on taking it one step at a time. But I feel like when we do get to Worlds, like I've played against, Huni before, I played against Smeb, I played against all of them. I even solo killed Smeb at Worlds last year. Like in lane, these players aren't really that much better, in my opinion, and it just comes down to their team cohesion is usually better because of their infrastructure. And I think it just comes down to a lot of that. And we've definitely, TLG has taken games off Rocks, off SKT before, and I've played them a decent amount of times. I don't really feel like there's that much of a gap, and I feel like it just comes to who's there to play on that day. I really think that's what it comes down to.
So showing up on that day is arguably the most important thing in terms of team cohesion. You're saying?
Yeah, I feel like whoever comes into the game more prepared on that day will win. And I think a lot of people are just like, oh, Korean players are better, or like this and that. I don't really agree with that.
In the conversation of best top laner NA, the three names being thrown around right now the most are Darshan, Someday, and Flame. Where would you put yourself on the top list? Do you think you're deserving of that top spot?
So last split, I would definitely say that at the end of the split, Hauntzer definitely deserved to be considered the best top laner in NA, but this split, he's just been making a lot of like bad decisions and like dying to ganks a lot. As for Flame, I feel like he's had good games, but I feel like the true MVP of that team is Smithy, and I don't really see Flame as like, yeah, he has good plays and he's a pretty solid player, but I don't really see him like really carrying the team like multiple games. Like he's had one or two like great games, but besides that, it hasn't been like wow Flame. I just usually see him like having pretty low impact overall as opposed to like other players on his team. So I wouldn't really consider Flame the best. And then as for Someday, I think he's a really good player, but I don't really think Dignitas plays around him that much, and so he's not really looking that good this play either. We just played against him, and he wasn't really hard to play against at all. So I definitely would consider myself the best, but I don't really take that position as like a solid thing or like as something that I'm like really proud of, because for me the best player can change from week to week or day to day, and it's just about taking it match by match. And if I focus on if I'm the best, like that's a really easy way to develop an ego, and I think that's one of the worst things to have as a pro player, because once you develop an ego, you just make worse decisions in game, and you definitely see that from other NALCS players. So I would like to say that I have been playing like that a lot of weeks this split, but I'm just going to keep taking it game by game.
Darshan, last question for you. You guys play against TSM on Sunday in your last match of the split. You spoke about Hauntzer making some individual mistakes this split compared to Spring. How is that top lane matchup going to go, and who's taking that series on Sunday?
So I think the top lane match will be pretty important, but I think the biggest thing that changed for TSM is they stopped playing off Hauntzer. Like they're much more focused on like Doublelift and Bjergsen than they are on him, which last split it was like Hauntzer and Bjergsen.
Right.
So I feel like a lot of the matchup is going to come down to bottom lane and mid lane more so than top, because it's just how TSM plays. But I definitely don't think I'll have that many issues against Hauntzer in lane, and I think it's just more so about who is the better team. And I definitely think we can beat them. I'm not too worried about any of their players individually, but it's just who comes together better. And I think that's been our focus. That's what CLG does better than any other team, and so I don't see why we can't take it.
Well, we certainly look forward to seeing that match. Darshan, thank you so much for the interview. Is there anything that you'd like to say to the CLG fan base or your personal fans who have followed your career?
I just want to say thanks for the support, guys. I really appreciate it. It's awesome to be able to be a pro and pursue my dream of becoming the best, and I hope you guys keep following me, and also just thanks, Nick, for the interview. Hope you guys watch this great content it's putting out.
Thank you very much, sir. For everything else on ALCS, feel free to hit that subscribe button below, and for everything else League of Legends eSports, you can head to caliber.gg.
Caliber.gg.